What's happening, Internet fam? So today I'm doing a quick beta test of the new Linux Mint 20.1 beta. So looking at the desktop, the only thing I've done so far is install OBS. That's the software here that I'm using to record. And I'm going to go ahead and drag OBS over to the other desktop. And I haven't done anything yet to the Linux Mint Mate beta desktop now. So this is the welcome screen. The welcome screen has gotten better and better over time with Linux Mint. And I'm going to do a few things here in the welcome screen right off the bat for configuration. I recommend all of you do this. Some of the things that I've noticed in Linux Mint, they're still defaulting to that kind of green theme. It is Linux Mint. I get it, especially now with the new tools that they have to kind of change things. It makes even more sense than usual. What I've noticed about performance so far is that it's actually working pretty well. Even while I'm making the recording and everything, I'm still getting, less than 20% of CPU usage. So definitely Mint Mate is still a fast runner even on this computer, which is just some old hand-me-down that's really not worth anything. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is just kind of the generic theming overall. They're defaulting to this background here, which is the one they defaulted to last time. I am not a huge fan of this background. They have some better ones that they could have defaulted to, I think. But it is plain enough to make it kind of okay. So if that's something to consider, it's not too bad. When you click on the Start menu, you'll notice right away that this has got this really kind of terrible, brash, garish, bright color that's very much contrasting to this the kind of nicer muted gray tone of like the taskbar and the rest of the things that you open the system. Similarly, when you open this, you've got this kind of bright white, kind of bright gray. I mean, everything's so bright. To me, it's like kind of like, whoa, it's a little bit too much on my eyes. I much prefer dark things on my computers, just easier on the eyes, stuff like that. So yeah, so anyway, here in the first steps in the welcome screen here, there's a button called First Steps. When you click this, this is where you can start to make some changes that help out with some of the theming things. The very first thing that I always do is click it over from the sun over to the moon and get that nicer dark color, and that fixes so many things that are wrong with the theming out of the box. And that's been true for Mint for a little while now. The other thing you can do is you can say, hey, instead of this green color, we can go with a very boring gray, or we can go with some kind of blue, or even hot pink if you want, whatever kind of color you want. I generally think the green's not that bad, but I kind of like lighter blue just for my desktops, just kind of what I prefer. In here you can set up system snapshots. That's great for people. That tool works really well as well. They've been making improvements to it the whole time, so definitely that's cool. Driver Manager. I haven't done anything yet on this system, so I'm going to go ahead and open the Driver Manager, put in my top secret password. A lot of these beta testers are out there installing to a virtual machine and stuff. I don't think you really get the full experience. I always like to do an install on bare metal before I make a recommendation. I did run the Update Manager one time. I did take all the updates. And then in here you've got a lot of different options: system settings, software manager, etc. I'm going to go ahead and show you the system settings. This tool has gotten really good over the years with Linux Mint. I've already fixed a lot of the issues that would occur by just in that welcome screen by just clicking on that boom, this little one here that switches over from sun to moon. One of the things that has been controversial about this current beta of Mint, and this is disappointing too. You see I click on the background. The backgrounds take forever to load. That's been a problem in Mint for a long, long time. Looks like we do have some new backgrounds. Looks like they load pretty quickly once you click on them, and they do look pretty good too. I'll have to go through these before I make a real recommendation on these backgrounds. Even this one I think is better than the one they're picking by default, so it's kind of odd that they would pick that one instead. Okay, we got some cool new backgrounds here. It's interesting to me too that Mint over the years has had a lot of great backgrounds, and it's odd that they continually add new backgrounds and kind of get rid of some of the old ones. Some of the old ones I think are better than some of the new ones. That one's pretty cool. Maybe we'll go with this one for a little while. So anyway, there's background. Fonts, you can change this if you're hard of seeing. I don't have the greatest vision in the world, so I'm going to go ahead and just bump all the fonts up 2 notches. That's just something I kind of always do. Make my life a little bit easier reading and stuff. A lot of the times too, I'm using a computer. I try to use monitors that aren't right up in my face. I'll have it back over on the wall, or I'm using like a big TV in the distance. And in that case, it's really useful to have a larger font for that reason. So I'm even going to up the fixed width font, although that sometimes causes issues, so risk taker. Interface, pretty basic over here. So that's it for the appearance section. Now, one of the things that's been very controversial about this new version is the desktop settings. With desktop, you can get rid of these icons if you want. I'm going to leave those. Those are the standard ones. But here in Windows, you'll see that there's Marco compositing, Marco and Compton, Metacity and Compton. There is no longer Compiz as of the beta. Now, there's been a lot of debate between me and Clem, the lead developer, and a bunch of other people. A lot of people really don't like Compiz because the default settings are kind of, I think, a little bit janky. I've been advocating for having Compiz installed by default for a long time and just having more reasonable settings. Compiz is a very powerful tool. So this is going to be a major downgrade for those of you who rely on Compiz, which is, frankly, I mean, I'm sure there's quite a few people out there. I'm gonna go ahead and switch to Marco without the compositing. See if that helps my FPS in OBS at all. So if you can see, I'm not quite getting 30 FPS here in OBS, and I kind of want to be locked on that. So it doesn't seem to be making much of a change. Let's try Metacity. See if that helps at all. Yeah, we're still getting about that same FPS. So, and that could be a number of things. That could be the graphics card. Not sure. Let's see Marco and Compton. I haven't done that one. What does that do? Marco and Compton is just absolutely destroying my FPS. So let's not do Marco and Compton. Let's go back to Marco and compositing. I think I was getting about the same as I was in just stock Marco anyway. Yeah, and that bumps us right back up to 27 FPS, which is probably good enough for the purpose of this video. So, but again, no Compiz, major downgrade for those of you who use Compiz, which I am somebody who use that. Current theme suggests a font. Apply font. No, I think I'm just going to leave that. Thank you. There's several other things in the settings you can change as well, but you know, that's kind of the initial basics, so that's going to be good enough. I'm going to go ahead and close the welcome screen. I'm going to uncheck show this dialog at startup because I don't need that. I can go open the welcome screen myself later if I want to. Okay, so the start menu, the default apps are Firefox and Thunderbird, as they have been for years. I don't think that Thunderbird is the best choice. Most of the people I know at this point are using a web app for mail, so that seems a little bit silly to have as a default. And I'm right-clicking, and there's no uninstall, which is too bad. Now, I can remove it from favorites, but I think it would be cool if there was an uninstall button right here, just for the record. So the main problem that I have with the Linux Mint beta process is every time they have a beta and I make some recommendations, or anybody makes recommendations, at the end of the day, they generally don't switch out any of those recommendations. It's like they just fix a couple of bugs and they just release it right away. I think if you're going to have a beta, you're going to get all this beta feedback from users. Why not actually go through and implement all the suggestions that users have during the beta? I just think that would be a good idea. I'm going to go ahead and remove this from favorites. Pix Image Viewer, it's okay. It's still a little rough around the edges. Could be better. System Monitor is all right, but it seems to take a lot more system resources than I want to use for a system monitor, which is one of the reasons why I always use HTOP instead, which is not installed by default. HTOP is a very small utility. I think it should always be installed by default. So, yeah, but I guess a system monitor is cool, whatever. That's probably going to be what most people are going to be looking for anyway over HTOP. So I guess that'll just be my little super nerd status. Another thing that I don't like about the Linux Mint terminal is it always comes in this weird default setting that's not great. Now, it used to be that when you were in a root session, like I am here, it would be red and it would say, hey, you're a root user. Now it's just all white when you're root. That's a problem with the root, with the terminal settings for Linux Mint. The other thing is I don't like the default theming as well. What I prefer is gray on black, and then I always go to the background and make the background at least partly transparent. So maybe not quite as transparent. So I just find that that's a little bit more compelling for a terminal than the default stock one. So yeah, so let's close that. Let's open a new one. And now we got a much better looking terminal. But again, these are things that I think, this is a little bit subjective, but I do think that having the terminal partly transparent is it's a good look. So let's see. So we have no htop, so I'm going to go ahead and apt install htop. That's something I always install. I do my installs through the terminal because I'm a Linux nerd, and that's just how we should do it. It's faster, it's easier. Now I've got htop installed, and now we can run htop, and we can see where I'm running a quad core with 8 gigs of RAM. And once again, we have the 2 gigs of swap. This is on a SSD. If you're on an SSD or an NVMe or really anything with any kind of adequate amount of RAM, I'm not advocating for the usage of a swap in the year 2020. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But this computer's running very well, and that's while I'm making this recording. So, Linux Mint Mate has always been stable and great as far as resource usage. So that's true today as well. Let's go ahead and close that. So coming back to the start menu, looking at a few things. Rhythmbox. I do not like Rhythmbox at all. And once again, there's no uninstall. You can't right-click and uninstall. And I think I remember that from a previous version of Mint Mate. So once again, this is another downgrade. So now we're going to have to apt uninstall by hand Rhythmbox. Did I forget how it was spelled? Rhythmbox. Because it's capital R? Oh, it's apt remove, not apt uninstall. Duh. Linux fail, fam. Okay, so we're going to apt remove Rhythmbox. Yes, we are. I find that Rhythmbox is bloated, and it's got all kinds of web access stuff that I don't really need in my music player, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to go ahead and apt remove Thunderbird as well. It's just, 185 megabytes of disk space that I don't need because I almost never use a dedicated mail client. Let's go ahead and see what else we had in that favorites menu. I guess these are things. I don't need the terminal in the favorites menu because I always use a shortcut for that. Although I generally use Compiz, and I will say that the shortcut for opening a terminal is broken by default in Compiz when you use Compiz. So Clem, if you're watching this video, if you're listening to any of the beta feedback, please bring Compiz, please leave it, please have a default Compiz setting that makes some kind of sense. And on top of that, make sure that the shortcuts work, like opening a terminal, taking a screenshot, all those kind of things that should just work out of the box. Mint at one point had really great Compiz support out of the box, and it's definitely dwindled over the years. So Firefox, we're going to go ahead and open that up, take a look. This is another kind of criticism I have of Linux Mint as well. A lot of their websites are quite dated and kind of old and kind of janky and just way too bright. I mean, bright themes to me are dead in 2020. Everything should be dark. It's just easier on the eyes, more pleasant to look at. There's enough bright, distracting things out there. Another thing that kind of has always bothered me about Linux Mint is the fact that when you do a search, like if you do a search, it defaults to Yahoo. And I just don't know anybody who actually really truly wants Yahoo in the year 2020. Another thing that I always install right away is uBlock Origin. I hate ads. I don't ever want to see ads, so I always go uBlock Origin. And again, look at Yahoo's giving me all these ads first. It's not giving me the real links. Even when I come down, it's giving me the Chrome one, even though I'm in Firefox. Finally, way down here, I get the link that I want for uBlock Origin. That's just, I mean, Yahoo is just, I don't know if Yahoo was ever good. I certainly don't think it's been good since the 90s, if it was ever good. It's definitely not good now. So anyway, uBlock Origin fixes a lot of things on the web. And let's go ahead, just for fun, let's go ahead and see if we can't change the default search to Google. Let's see, Yahoo, look at start page, DuckDuckGo, Wikipedia. Google isn't even listed as an option, so you can't just quick, boom, select Google. I'm going to go ahead and do start page because honestly, probably anything's better than Yahoo. Let's go ahead and see what that search looks like. Bit slower, but I like the layout. I like the dark theme. Maybe I'm going to have to start using start page. Let's see what start page comes up when I do uBlock Origin. See if they come up with a better search for that. It's the number 2 one, and the number 1 one is a Chrome one. So start page is a much better choice of a search engine than Yahoo. So just go ahead and go ahead and do that from now on. So There we go. Looking good. Let's see, images. Hey, the image search is good too. Let's see. Let's see if we can get some image searches. I don't know who this is, but for some reason this person is subsumed my name on all image searches in the last 6 months or something. It must be some new anime or commercial or something. I don't know what it is. But anyway, yeah. So start page search, not bad. Not bad at all. Although I don't care for the animated character taking over my name. So Firefox is working good. Firefox is a great choice. Firefox is the one that I would prefer since it is open source and we're on Linux. It's weird to me that they've never updated these favorites. These favorites should have been updated. I mean, who in the year 2020 is going to use this text editor other than coders and super nerds like me? Probably not too many people. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. Displays. I mean, I did change the displays. I moved one screen over to the other, so it actually made sense when I moved the mouse back and forth from screen to screen. But other than that, I'm never going to use this again. So why is that in favorites? I don't know. Calculator's good. Sound, I mean, it's okay that that's in favorites, I guess, but look at there's sound right here. We could get to sound just as easily right here. Although, oh, look, that's quite a bug there. Something weird going on there. I don't know if you could see that because I'm in the way, but there's, yeah, you can't actually get to things in the sound menu. So that's a bug when you right click. Oh, now it's fixed. Huh. Very odd. Clem, look out. There was some weird bug there. I don't know if you saw that. But yeah, since you can get to sound here, I would say, why mess around with sound over here? Get rid of that from the favorites as well. Just doesn't need to be there. Pix doesn't need to be in the favorites. I never open Pix from the icon. I always open Pix by double clicking on a picture and letting the picture open a picture. So again, this is another one where it's like that shouldn't be in the favorites. Why? So let's go ahead and look for the GIMP. There is no GIMP, and I've typed in GIMP, and there's no option to install GIMP. So some major deprecations in 20.1 as of the beta. You can't uninstall from the start menu. You can't install from the start menu. So that is a problem. And why the hell isn't GIMP included by default? GIMP is the most powerful, most used, most popular, most everything great image editor in the world, and it is not installed by default? This is just a good example of somebody somewhere on the Mint team making a decision that's shooting the entire community and the entire distro right in the foot by not including GIMP, which takes hardly any room at all on the ISO. What, 200 megs or something? And it's one of the best tools out there. So not only should GIMP be installed by default, but it should be in the favorites by default. Now the GIMP is there. We're going to put GIMP in favorites. Now we can open the GIMP and see if GIMP works. Very fast load. Now usually the first load on GIMP takes a minute. Oh, look at this. GIMP loaded in single window mode by default right off the bat. Big points on that one, Mint team. Good job. I think in the past it's always opened in that mode where it's not single window mode. So there's like menus everywhere. It's a total mess. Single window mode is much better. I don't know if that's the GIMP team just having a sudden bout of rationality or the Mint team or who's to blame. But the fact that the very first time I loaded it, it's a usable Photoshop clone. Very good news. If you guys haven't used the GIMP before, it's literally a drop-in replacement for Photoshop, except for I like it much, much better than Photoshop. And it's free and open source. And it's better. So what's not to like? Okay, but it wasn't included by default, so that's definitely major points. You know what? Let's go ahead and start tabulating and making scores on what's deprecated, what is a devolution for the Linux Mint platform, and what has been an evolution. So let's go ahead and open Libreoffice Writer, which is installed by default. Major points, but why isn't it in the favorites? It should definitely be in the favorites. I'm going to put it in the favorites. Libreoffice Writer. It's a drop-in replacement for Microsoft Word, except again, better, free, open source, easier to use. So let's make. So how do we make two columns? I always struggle to find out how to make two columns. Let's see if that is going to be the case here as well. Let's see, styles, no, format, columns, two columns. Boom, we got two columns. Okay, so let's do pros first. The first is that Mint is continuing to, as usual, be very resource efficient. So I'm going to put that as a pro. That's been a pro that's been ongoing for a long time. Let's talk about, let's make a second category down here, improvements. And then over here, let's do, oh, you can't. You actually have to get to the next column by pressing enter 8,000 times. Okay, let's do cons. And let's do downgrades, we'll call it. I guess if we're going with downgrades, we should call the other one upgrades, right? So let's do upgrades and downgrades. So cons, no GIMP by default. That's just stupid. Sorry, Mint team. That's just wantonly stupid. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. It's one of the best open source apps there is. You're not including it by default. Very stupid. Upgrades. Hey, when I did install GIMP, GIMP was in single user mode, so that's pretty cool. Or single window mode, which is definitely an upgrade. Downgrades. Downgrades is going to have to be no compiz. That's a... Okay, so apparently I put the video on pause by pressing the letter Z, which I hardly ever use, but I used a Z here when I typed in compiz here. So you have missed a lot of what I have determined on the beta. Let's go over the cons and pros and cons again. Actually, we'll go over them again all at the end. I'll have to do some editing on this video, obviously, which means I'm going to need Kdnlive. Kdnlive is not installed by default, but you know, I'm not sure it should be. So I have to install Kdnlive. Great program for editing videos, but I can understand why that's not installed by default, because not everybody's editing videos and stuff like I am, because I'm a giant nerd. However, it would be cool if they did install Kdnlive by default, because I think in the year 2020 enough people are editing videos now to where that makes some kind of sense. So okay, Kdnlive is installing, so I'll be able to edit this video. Let's keep going. Accessories. Oh, Warpinator. Let's see if Warpinator finds our other machines this time. I'm gonna have to put this video on pause. I'm gonna go ahead and pause this, let Kdnlive install, and also go turn on my Warpinator on the other machine, see if they find each other. All right, so I ran the Warpinator on my other machine, and they found each other, so great news. Here they are. Now, going to my other machine after using the beta for a minute, my other machine has compiz installed, which works so incredibly great. So as usual, it's definitely a downgrade coming from compiz to a machine that doesn't have compiz. And also on my other machine, it's got like 32 gigs of RAM and a giant 1 terabyte SSD, and the swap is right now at like 1 gigabyte. So again, the swap management, very odd for Mint just in general. So that seems like something under the hood that they could have been fixing for a while. So Warpinator, got some stuff, downloaded it. Here it is, showing right up. Here's a picture from a hike I did not that long ago. I live in Hawaii, so you can be jealous of me if you want. And here's a picture of an airship design that I'm working on for openairships.com. Shameless self-promotion. So this is a good test of Pix, though, which I haven't done yet. Pix, and look at, now we're in full screen mode with Pix as well. So looking pretty good, actually. So happy about all of this. And let's see. It's going to default to celluloid. That's a weird one. We want it to default to Audacious. Let's check out the music. Let's go ahead and put on one of those visualizations.
I met you when I was drunk. You were drinking too. We were in a bar.
So we got the OpenGL visualization going on.
Should have figured out right then, with your ex-boyfriend there, we'd never get too far.
Okay, so that's all working. That looks good. I mean, it's a very usable system already, clearly. Let's see, I always put a USB formatter in the favorites. I'm going to go ahead and put Warpinator in the favorites. Let's see what else we got here. So graphics. So they got their own custom image editing software. But you know, and it's cool. It reminds me of the old Windows Paint. It's got a place, but it is no replacement for the GIMP. And so for them to, you know, get rid of the GIMP and then, you know, replace it with this just seems very, I mean, this is very cool and very useful. It's, you know, you can do things very quickly, which is great. But, you know, again, this is no GIMP. So it's like, what are we talking about here? You know, I don't know. But cool. I'll probably play with this again more. What is this little program called here? Drawing? Just drawing? Okay. I mean, drawing is not the GIMP. It's just a whole different can of worms. And don't get me wrong, drawing seems cool. I'm going to discard that. Drawing seems cool, but, you know, why not have both? That's the beauty of Linux and open source. It's free. You're not costing anything to get the additional functionality. So why not have them both right in there? Pix was working great too. Okay, so under Internet, we've got Hex Chat, Kde Connect, make all your devices one, Kde Connect indicator. See, how did these KDE things get installed? Is that because I installed Kdnlive? Very odd. This is something I'm excited about. Web apps. Run websites as if they were apps. So that's kind of cool. Let's see if we can do that. I haven't played with this yet. I know this is a new feature, so let's go ahead and play with it. Let's go ahead and use my favorite. A little bit of lag there for a second, so let's go ahead and do that. So now we've got a web app. Let's go ahead and see where those show up. Where do those show up? Under Internet? Office? Where are they showing up at? Administration, Preferences, Accessories, All? Where do your web apps show up in the Start menu? LMN. I'm not seeing it. So what do we do here? What do we launch, edit, minus, remove? We can't make a shortcut to it on the desktop. Keyboard shortcuts. Web apps, add, remove, launch, escape, go back, quit. So I know this is a new feature, but I mean the fact that I can't put a shortcut, like I can't pin it to the Start menu, I can't pin it to the taskbar, that makes it very yeah, I mean that's really making the utility of this program very limited for me. But it's opening the website as if it's a standalone thing. Open the website and makes it very clean with no navigation toolbar or anything. So I guess that's cool for if there's a website that you're using like that. What would be like a more, I guess YouTube would be one that you might use more than that. So let's go YouTube. Let's go http://youtube.com. Oh, look it gets an icon right away. Is that pulling from the fav icon, I wonder? Interesting. Okay, so let's launch YouTube. See how that goes. And there is YouTube. Somehow it knew to default somehow it knew to default to dark theme in YouTube. Is that because of the theming that I did in Mint? Therefore it knew just to do that automatically? Interesting idea. So, but that's pretty cool. But again, unless I can make this, you know, can I pin it from here? Move to another workspace. Only on this would move, resize. I can't right click and then pin to the taskbar, or right click, make that shortcut. I can't drag it anywhere. So again, I mean, there's just no way to bring that up. So like if I close the web apps app, right, and I go over here and I start clicking in YouTube, it doesn't come up with anything. So I mean, what is the purpose of having web apps if you can't make a shortcut to them? Got web apps, can't make a shortcut. What are you gonna do here? Cool feature, obviously needs some more work. Let's see what else. So that's the web apps thing. Excited to try that out. Transmission. Why they would install transmission? Oh, I can uninstall from here. Wait a minute. I couldn't uninstall a minute ago. I can uninstall from here? What was that? At some point I hit pause. Z is clearly not a good pause button when I'm doing these demos. Gonna have to edit this video again. At some point, the YouTube web app showed up in the all applications under internet, and then I was actually able to pin it to the favorites and launch it as a web app from the favorites, making the utility of that program incredibly useful. So now you could have a link for Gmail, for example. Let's go ahead and do that. Why not? So we're going to go Internet Web Apps. We're going to make a new one. We're going to call it Gmail. We're going to go gmail.com. Ooh, came up with an icon and everything. So there it is. Gmail.com. Close Web Apps. There's Gmail right there. Show in Favorites. Now in Favorites, you can click on Gmail, and it's going to open Gmail as if it's its own standalone app, which means you can drag and drop it to other desktops, whatever you want to do. Pretty cool. Pretty cool, Mint team. Pretty cool. All right, let's keep going. No idea when I hit pause. I'm going to have to redo all kinds of stuff here. Okay, let's go back to all applications. So internet, HexChat, I love HexChat. It's great. But again, the defaults on HexChat are always really wonky. Let's see if they fix those. No, they did not. So first of all, HexChat doesn't show up on the screen where the start menu is. It pops over to the farthest left screen. Weird thing that always happens. That always happens with Kdnlive too. We installed Kdnlive, so I'll check that later. Also, it goes to just Spot Chat. It doesn't go to any kind of like useful IRC thing. It does go to Linux Mint Help channel, which is cool. But I mean, how much cooler would it be if it had Freenode and like some links to some popular rooms on Freenode, something that my people at it might actually use. And look at how weird and clunky and ugly this interface is. I mean, that is just, I mean, the default theme for HexChat is like from the 80s. Why can't we have nice things? Why can't we just have it be like, gray on black with semi-transparent, Change the default theme in HexChat. That should be something that could be done before release. Anyway, don't ask next time. Quit. So HexChat is great, though. It works. Internet. Yeah, it added this weird KDE stuff. That must have been when I installed Kdnlive. That's too bad. LibreOffice. All the great stuff in LibreOffice. I think that Calc and Write should be in the favorites. Let's be real. I mean, LibreOffice Write and LibreOffice Calc should just be in the favorites. These are just things, these are tools that if you're a computer user, you're going to use. So why not just put them in the favorites? Better than Excel, faster, easier, cheaper, free. Free is pretty cheap, right? I'll put Warpinator up here. Why not? What else can we put up here? I guess we'll put YouTube up here. Why not? We got our own web app for YouTube. I'm very tickled by that. Now also, like in Compiz, you can make the transparency different for the start menu, so you can actually make the start menu partially transparent by just holding Alt and then scrolling with the scroll wheel. Can't do that in Marco. So once again, downgrade. So let's add some things to the pros list. Upgrades. The web apps. The web apps is definitely an upgrade. Great job. That really worked well. Although it was weird, they didn't show up for a second in the start menu after I added them. Then we had some other pros and cons already, didn't we? What were the other ones? Let's go back to Warpinator. Warpinator works great. I'm gonna make that a pro for sure. Warpinator. What else we got going on here? That's pretty much it for Office, LibreOffice. What else do you need? That's great. Sound and video, Audacious, Celluloid, Hypnotics. That's a new app we got to check out. OBS I installed by myself, and it installed a very old version of OBS too, version 25.0. I think we're on like something much later than that at this point. Let's go ahead and check out Hypnotics because that's the new app that we want to see. Now, when I click on Hypnotics on the start menu, it opens on the screen where I clicked it. That makes a lot more sense than anything. I mean, when I opened up, what was it? Was it HexChat? See, when I open up HexChat, okay, well, it opens where I last had it, which was over here. But before, when I opened it, I swear it opened up on some other screen in the top left corner. So let's check out Kdnlive and see if that one works real quick. So we're in Sound and Video, Kdnlive. Opens perfectly in the screen where it's supposed to. So it's solved the issue that I was having on my other computer and opens on the proper screen. So that's pretty cool. TV channels, 2,546. We've got 139 USA channels. ABC News, Bloomberg, CBS, C-SPAN, MSNBC, NBC, Newsnet, Newsmax TV, OAN, RT. Quite a few channels there. Let's see, American Horrors. I've never even heard of some of these. Interested. Blaze TV, Bluegrass for You. What is Bluegrass for You? Is that actual bluegrass going on? Let's see if we can tune in. Let's see what's happening. Okay, so while I was recording the previous video, I had a hard crash. I rebooted the machine. I actually had to physically reboot the machine, so that's a pretty big bug, whatever's happening there. I'm going to have to go back in and see how that video came up. But while I went to go and open the this video to see if it worked, I had another very strange crash. So let's see if I can duplicate that now. I said open with celluloid. It pops over to this other screen, and I can't drag it. I can't do anything. Celluloid has crashed. If I right click down in the taskbar and hit close, it blacks out my whole screen for a second and then actually closes. So celluloid is acting very wonky in the beta version. Definitely gonna have to check that out, Clem. Let's open up with a VLC. Looks like VLC is working. Is it gonna play my video though that I was recording? What's happening, Internet fam? So today I'm doing a quick beta test. So I've got audio.
Linux Mint 20.1 beta.
I've got audio, but no video.
Gray, or we can go with.
Huh.
I'm going to do a few things here in the welcome screen right off. What's happening, Internet fam? So today,
if I rewind it, it's working?
Of the new Linux Mint 20.1 beta.
Yeah, so if I rewind it, it's working, but when I first started it, there's there's some weird error going on in video playback. I had a hard crash with Hypnotics, which I'm excited about checking out. It's one of the new apps. Hard crash in Hypnotics, and now I've had issues with both celluloid and with VLC. So it's clear to me there's something going on with that. Although VLC seems to be working now, man, I'm going to have a huge editing job on this Linux Mint beta review. Here's the thing. I'm going to do all this Linux Mint beta review. I'm going to make all these suggestions, comments, etc. And it's just doubtful that the Mint team's going to listen to them. You know, I submit a review every beta for Linux Mint, and almost never do they implement any of the suggestions that I make. Almost never. So it's like it's irritating to me because it's like, why do I bother? You know what I mean? I don't know. Because I love Linux Mint. It's like the best operating system there is. It's just, you know, why can't they take the beta info and make it work? All right, so VLC seems to be working, so that's good. Let's go ahead and see if I can recover my little app that I was using. Untitled, start the recovery, finish. Boom, I'm right back to where I was on that project. So at least I didn't lose my work in Libreoffice, so that's good news. I guess while we're over here, we can go ahead and do an HTOP instance. Make sure that we can see how things are running. I'll put it over on this other screen. It's really more for me, not for you guys. So yeah, Hypnotics, we had a hard crash. Let's go ahead and run Hypnotics again and see if we get that same hard crash or not. Hypnotics. Let's minimize this. TV channels. So I picked USA and then Bluegrass USA or something. What's Distro USA? Bollywood, Brit, Asia. Is this like foreign channels for USA? I really don't. Popular Science? There's a Popular Science channel? Not that I'm a huge fan of Popular Science, but this is where we had the hard crash earlier, so let's get some motion going. Let's see if we can replicate that hard crash. Or not. Maybe it'll just work.
AKA manipulating muscles with an electrical
I'm getting audio,
Mary Shelley stacked
but no video. If I hit pause, hit resume. Hello? Is my computer frozen? Is everything frozen? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Skedio. Okay, so I had to close Hypnotics. I don't know what was recording while I had that crash and burn. But there's clearly something going on with Hypnotics, and it is not reliable at this time. So, oh, you know what? Now that we're at it, let me talk about Kdnlive for a second, because it's great. One of the things that I didn't realize Kdnlive has in it is a DVD wizard. So you can burn a DVD that's usable in a DVD player or a Blu-ray player right from Kdnlive. Just a little tip that I just discovered. Making DVDs has always been this huge rigmarole and process where you got to like customize the ISO and all this crazy stuff. This wizard in Kdnlive works amazingly. So might be worth thinking about including that. Another KDE app that I use is K3B. I always install everything with K3B. So let's go ahead and look at K3B. I type in K3B. There's no install option coming up. No install option. No files found. So it looks like we're going to have to manually install it. So let's go ahead and give ourselves a little root console. Okay, we've got a root console now, so I can go ahead and do apt install K3B. I mean, K3B for my money is just the best DVD and CD burning program there is in Linux. I've tried all of them. Brasero just never. I get more coasters out of Brasero than anything. I almost never get a coaster from K3B unless I did something wrong when I was designing the original ISO. So, so very cool. So now we can make DVDs and burn them. Let's see what else we're missing there. Sound and video. So we went through there. System tools. We got HTOP now because I added that. Time shift. Time shift is great. It really is. Synaptic software system reports. System reports is interesting. Let's go ahead and check that out. That's one of the like kind of newer features that I think was added in Linux Mint 20, and it does do some pretty useful stuff. For instance, now we're downloading the language packs for Libreoffice, which is going to throw me a few less. Oh, and for GIMP too. Okay, gotta go with the password. All right, so we are installing the language packs that the system reports tool told me to install. Why not? I like it. Launch time shift. Yeah, I'm gonna do that later. So look at, I mean, this is pretty crash reports. Now here's the thing, I've already had 2 crashes and I'm not seeing a crash report in here. So how well are crash reports really working? Don't know. Preferences, kind of went through all that already, so that's going to pretty much round it up, I guess, or round it out. Another pet peeve that I always have with Linux Mint is that it's always in military time. Who does military time? I mean, why isn't it just this? It should be in the 12-hour format. I mean, everybody I know uses 12-hour format. Likewise, weather always in C and meters per second. I mean, there's a few of these things where it's like very European specific when it's like, let's be real. My guess is 75 to 80% of your users are in the USA. So why not default to the USA options? Just saying. Just saying. I mean, I don't know. That'd be interesting. Maybe they got better metrics on that than I do. Worth a debate. So, and there's no games at all either. So let's go ahead and open the software manager, see what they offer in the software manager. Let's close the system tool thing. Wine. Gotta have wine. That's a good one. These are actually pretty good. These are actually really good top selections. Really good. And the blender out at the top too. This, I don't know if they changed this, but this looks a lot better than it did in previous versions. So great job on that. Now, can I install Wine from the terminal the same way? Let's see what the software manager says. So if I do it from here, is it going to do the 32-bit and 64-bit installers? It's worth wondering. So let's see. It's installing Wine, but I'm going to have to see if it installed the Wine with the 32-bit option, because And I don't like how you can't get more data here. I mean, you can click on the wheel, I guess. What is that doing? You can't get, like, you know, you can't get the terminal to actually show you what it's doing. It's kind of weird. I mean, I think it would be cooler if you could see a terminal actually showing you, oh, it's installing all these different components. I like that. I like that you can do it during install of the distro, where it's like, you know, where it shows you what it's doing. You can open the little terminal thing and actually read what it's doing. So why not do it for the whole dang kit and caboodle? I'm going to let that install, drink some water, be right back. Okay, welcome back, party people. So Wine installed, and when I did it from the software manager, it looks like it installed Wine32 and Wine64 and DOSBox and Play on Linux. Oh, no, these are suggests. Okay. So it didn't install this other stuff, but it did look like it installed on Wine64 and Wine32, which were both things that needed to be installed. Those kind of threw me before, so it looks like going through the software manager that installed properly. I'd be curious to see if it would have installed the same way if I would have done it by hand in the terminal. So now we may never know, because I tried out the software manager, which worked great, by the way, so that's cool. And it had like one of the things I definitely needed to install right at the top of the list, so very, very cool. And look, Google Earth, and you can install it as a web app now. So cool, so cool. See, Spotify, Inkscape, and there's quite a few things I'd use here. Let's check out the games list, because, see, Wine should not be in the games list. I mean, yes, Wine helps you play Windows games on your Linux machine, but it's not really a game, you know? Shouldn't that be like somewhere else? I don't know. Super Tux Kart, version 4.4. Woo! It's funny how the graphics for Super Tux Kart aren't very good. Or is this just a really old screenshot? Have they gotten better? Yeah, maybe a little bit. Yeah, still not great, but still cool that that's a Linux game you can get. Play on Linux, very cool. Front end for Wine. Open Arena, Nexus, Warzone, Hedgehog Wars. See, and this is something I get too. Is it just by whatever's had the most reviews? That's it? No, because look, Nexus has more reviews than Open Arena, and yet it's above that. So how are they coming up with this ordering scheme? You know, I mean, it's just, I don't know. Seems like things that are more popular or better rated should be higher, maybe? I'm not sure. Poker TH, Neverball, Isle Riot. Quite a few games here. Let's check out board games. Oh, so that's all games. That's why it's very... Look at, I mean, I'm scrolling through this list of the board games, and I saw a version of chess up there, but I did not see the version of chess that I think looks a lot better. I mean, Pie Chess, Chess Graphical, Dream Chess, 3D chess game. Because last time I did 3D chess, yeah. I just don't like the way this looks at all compared to Brutal Chess. Let's see if Brutal Chess shows up in the software manager. Brutal Chess. That didn't even show up in the board. Yeah, look how much cleaner Brutal Chess looks. I mean, it looks a lot better, doesn't it? So let's go ahead and install Brutal Chess. Let's do it from the command line so we can actually watch what's happening. Brutal Chess. Oh, apt install Brutal Chess. It's been a long day, okay? So now we can actually see what components Brutal Chess is installing, which I like. So it looks like it's there. See, does that show up in the menu now? Brutal Chess, there it is. I don't like the icon for Brutal Chess, so sad face about that. But and now boom, I've got Brutal Chess. Now this is another thing too. Once your start menu starts to get full, why is it like kind of like shortening the icon? Why wouldn't it just make the start menu higher or, you know, bigger, something? I'm somebody who likes to have a lot of favorites, so wouldn't it be cooler if like you got to see the whole icon down here? Doesn't that seem like some kind of error or something? Yeah, here's Brutal Chess. I love Brutal Chess. Great version of chess. I wish that there was a way to play Brutal Chess online with my friends, but there isn't. Oh, and look at game Ochens, Gra, Hicks, Wit. So we're missing letters here, some kind of font issue. Is that Brutal Chess? Is that something to do with Linux Mint? I'm not sure. And how would I know? Okay, so there's Brutal Chess. What kind of Civ games do they have? Civ. Free Civ server. I want to like Free Civ so bad, but I can never really. It's just not as good as Civilization 2, which works great in Wine. So why would I bother? That's the question. Why would I bother? And I have Civ 2 on another machine, and Warpinator is already set up and working. Warpinator is a big win. I do. I mean, Warpinator is great. I hate the name. Oh, now when I open the start menu, it shows the full icon. Weird little issues like this all over the place. What's up with that? Let's go ahead and put Warpinator in the favorites too. Why not? Oh, it already is. Why did it not show up then? Oh, it's there. What about Hypnotics? Let's put Hypnotics in the favorites, even though right now it's not even working. Now, here's the question. Will Hypnotics work if I close OBS? It's a good question, isn't it? Let's go ahead and close all of this stuff. I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to try Hypnotics without OBS running and come back and report. I'll let you know in a second. Be right back. All right, so that was very odd. Hypnotics, I kind of got it to work for a minute when I didn't have OBS running. I couldn't show it on the video because I can't get OBS and Hypnotics to work at the same time. And as you can see over here in the crash reports, nothing. Nada. So, but it did look very cool. It looked like it provided some functionality I've never really seen in any other app. Very cool. The amount of different television stations there were and selections and stuff. Very interesting. I will definitely be checking that out. I'm going to have to recover my Libra Office pros and cons documentary again. It keeps crashing while I'm trying to do the test. So yeah, beta test. Hypnotics is definitely causing a lot of hard crashes. I mean, it caused a hard crash for me with OBS open, without OBS open. And Celluloid was also causing a very similar hard crash. So there's something going on between Celluloid and Hypnotics, whatever the library that they share in common is, whatever. So let's go ahead and talk about the overall. Let's go ahead and talk about the overall. I forgot I have some of my images on the background. Yeah, accessible now? No. I'll be right back. Okay, so I went and tried to upgrade OBS-studio from the repos from the actual website. So I added the PPA for OBS-studio. And then when I went to go actually update it or upgrade it, it said that a package was held back. So I had to manually uninstall OBS-studio, then update, and then install OBS-studio to get it to the new version. It is the new version now. It's 26.1, and it looks like it's running quite a bit better than it was a minute ago. And let's go ahead and try Hypnotics now, shall we? We don't care about that. Okay, and by the way, Start Page as a search engine, pretty good. I might switch to Start Page, just FYI. Okay, so let's go ahead and get Hypnotics, and let's see if we can. Now that I have a new version of OBS, let's see if Hypnotics is a little bit happier. Remember, this is a risky issue because this gave me a hard crash earlier. So, what's Pluto USA? What are all these? What are all these options? So many options. Pluto USA has 219 channels. All right, well, let's go see. 80s Rewind, Adventure TV, After School Cartoons, America's Test Kitchen. Let's go ahead and see what After School Cartoons is all about. If it works, let's see. Huh? Trying to do something. No? I could still use the program. When I had that hard crash, everything froze and I couldn't actually do stuff, so. Alright, so that's pretty much going to do it for my review of the Linux Mint Beta. A lot of little errors, a lot of downgrades. It wasn't all bad news, though. first of all, Linux Mint has always been super resource efficient, especially the Mate version. The Mate version is really the only one I use on the regular, mainly because I use Compiz. So we're going to get to that later. Obviously, it comes with a great LibreOffice installed out of the box. It comes with Firefox installed out of the box. Warpinator is great. It worked very well between my brand new beta test machine and a machine that I had over in the other room with some stuff on it. I mean, there's probably other great pros that I'm not even thinking of. Honestly, the theming and stuff, if they would default to the dark theme and solve a couple of the other like minor little issues that I showed earlier, the theming in Linux Mint would be absolutely fantastic. It's really not that bad. It's actually pretty good. But it's just one of those things where it's like, by default, let's go. And I had a bunch of crashes, and not one of them showed up in the crash report either. So there's that. So pretty useful crash report, I'd say. Yeah, let's go back to that welcome screen, right? The welcome screen. I mean, you can make Linux Mint look great by default. Here it is. Boom. Everything looks good. All the colors match. Start menu makes some kind of sense. Good clean backgrounds. Everything's good, right? But for some reason, they're defaulting to this mode. And then when you go click on the start menu, it doesn't change the start menu when you switch that. It changed it before. Yeah, I don't know. Very odd. I mean, we want... Oh, there we go. Now it's in day mode. Oh, yeah. So here we go. How is this preferable? Why would it default to this? That's so ugly. So ugly. You do this, and boom, everything looks better right off the bat. I mean, that's like... It's little tiny details like this all over Linux Mint that are just really lacking that kind of fit and finish, which is why so many people that I know are hesitant to switch to Linux still. Even though it's so great now, it's so much better than Windows and Mac on almost every level. There's all these little tiny little nagging issues around the OS that just make it so people think, oh, it's janky. They're used to Windows, they're used to Mac. They don't want to deal with like these weird little issues, And I mean, these ones are cosmetic, but they make a big deal, especially to people who, aren't tech-savvy IT experts. There's so many in the pros column, honestly, that I have forgotten to list at this point. Now I can't bring up LibreOffice. It's not showing up. If I close the welcome screen. Okay, just now I could not bring up LibreOffice. I was clicking it repeatedly and it wasn't coming up. So, yeah, definitely some odd issues in this beta release. You guys might need a second beta because if you release it like this, that's going to be pretty embarrassing. Yeah, I mean, why would they not have the GIMP installed? Why would they not go ahead and install Kdnlive, which makes DVDs, makes editing videos great? OBS installed. Why are they pointed at such an old version of OBS? I mean, there's so many weird little issues. The Yahoo search engine, the fact that you can't pick Google, Gparted isn't installed by default. They're removing Compiz, even though it's like pretty much the main reason I use Linux Mint at this point is because of how great the Compiz support out of the box has been historically. 19.3 or one of those versions of Mint, Compiz worked great out of the box. I loved it. Now it's just, it's not, we're not there. We're not there. And it's really too bad because we could be there. I mean, you would think that when you move from version 19 to version 20 that you're improving, you're upgrading. And yet, there's been several things that were not upgrades; they were downgrades. So it's just like, why can't we have nice things? Hypnotics, very cool idea, but at the moment it's broken. It's not working. Crashed my computer repeatedly with and without other video apps running, such as OBS. Celluloid crashed as well a couple times on me. VLC was actually acting really janky as well too. So there's something going on with video playback in the new version of Mint. So many great things. Warpinator is great. Hypnotics has great potential. I really like the idea, but it's not there yet. Um, a LibreOffice being included out of the box. LibreOffice is great. Everything works great. You still got a file menu, which most people want. All the buttons make sense. All the menus make sense. It's not like these horrific windows or ribbons or whatever they're doing in the Microsoft products now. It's like I can't even get behind. I can't even discuss without being super frustrated the choices that the UI designers have made for Apple, Microsoft, and all these other products. This is clearly better. I mean, look at that menu up there. That just looks good. File, print, boom, file, print, just like that. Just the way people have been doing it since the 80s. What's hard about that? It should have been like that the whole time. So anyway, I mean, there's a lot of things that Mint really gets right. There's a lot of things that are definitely missing. The game selection, the way to pick games, the way that the software manager works, the fact that you can't watch what software manager is doing when you click install on something. There's just so many little issues all over the place. And that is why I want to make my own distro. I want to fork Linux Mint and make my own distro because there's so many little tiny things that could just, if they were polished, this would be so great. And honestly, I feel like a lot of the versions of Mint in the last few years have been a downgrade. When I used LMDE2 5 or 6 years ago now, that was pretty much the perfect operating system. LMDE2, the Mate edition, was like just incredibly solid, responsive, low resource usage. Everything was bulletproof. I mean, I never had an issue with that operating system. We took the System D poison pill. Everything's less stable. We took, all these other little, it's like death by 1,000 cuts with this stuff. You can't install the latest version of Chrome now or something. There's something going on there. And again, I get it. Chrome's not open source. I'm advocating for Firefox anyway. I get it. But the ease of use, it's got to be there for general people. I mean, I'm a nerd and I'm getting frustrated. Imagine, my mom trying to install this or something, She installs it and she's like, oh, I'm trying to play music and it just doesn't work. I'm trying to do this and it just doesn't work. They got a new app where I can watch TV. Cool. Turn it on. Computer crashes. I know this is a beta. So again, this feedback is meant to be constructive criticism to improve Mint and make it better. That's been my goal with every single video I've posted about Linux Mint. This video is going to be very long. I'm going to have to do a ton of editing. So I'm going to wrap it up right now. Linux Mint team, you've got so much going for you. So much great stuff. I just wish we could get over whatever that little ledge is and get all these tiny little issues that are all over the place and solve them. GIMP should be installed by default. That's just stupid. That's just like you taking a shotgun and blowing your own foot off. Why would you not include GIMP? That's just like, I don't get it. And now there was a problem with the compiz configuration, so we're just going to remove it? So I can't do all my little fancy effects and stuff that I like to do? It's just, this is all we get now? We don't get the spinning cube and I can't, zoom in and I can't, draw with the white, with the white highlighter and stuff. I mean, compiz is amazing. It's really great. I understand there's a lot of plugins that are dorky and weird and stupid and people don't like it. I agree. I never enable those plugins. Now imagine if we had a distro where they put compiz out there, not only as like an option, but as the default, and where it was set up in a way that it actually worked out of the box great. So you could have the 3D cube, you could have the zoom in, the zoom out, the white writing, all the good little stuff that compiz does, and none of the BS. All the shortcuts still work. You could still take screenshots, you could still drag and drop windows and menus like you're supposed to. All this stuff was just set up to work properly out of the box, and we didn't have wobbly windows and fire and water effects and all that like stupid stuff you do not need that really are bells and whistles. I mean, there's a lot of bells and whistles in compiz. And I'm not advocating for removing those bells and whistles, but I'm advocating for having a default configuration where those bells and whistles are turned off and the ones that are turned on are very useful, functional ones that everybody would enjoy using. Zoom in, 3D cube, writing with the little white thing, so many things about compiz are great. And it's just, there's something about the Mint team. I think they wrote Cinnamon. Okay, they wrote Cinnamon, and Cinnamon's great. Cinnamon's very popular. A lot of people are using Cinnamon. Cinnamon's now been ported to all these other distros. People are using Cinnamon. I've always preferred Mate, always, since day one. I've never liked Cinnamon as much as Mate. Cinnamon's a little bit too rigid and locked in. Mate just seems like a little bit more configurable, a little less resource hungry, a little cleaner, a little faster, and it works great in Compiz. Worked great in Compiz. Can't have Compiz now. It's uninstalled by default. Oh, and by the way, if I do go into the terminal and install Compiz, you think it's going to come up with this great configuration that's super usable out of the box? No. So they didn't fix anything. They just look, oh, you gave us like several bug reports and an example of what the issue was and showed us, made videos. You did everything. You did it in the beta test for 19, 19.1, 19.2, 19.3, 20, 20.1. You gave us all that feedback and information so we could fix it. And instead we just tore it out. Just tear it out. It's like, what? You're welcome. Yeah, the death by 1,000 cuts that is being a Linux user in the year 2020 is really, really frustrating. I just wish that we could have nice things. I wish things would work out of the box. I wish all these little issues would just like be solved. So many of them are so easy. Include the GIMP. Include the GIMP. Why wouldn't you include the GIMP? It's like the best photo editor there is. It's free. It's open source. It's in the repos. It works perfect. Now it even has a great default config out of the box. Just have it enabled and installed by default. Put it in the favorites. I mean, that default favorites list was a joke. Who's going to use like the old clunky text editor from the 80s? Why is that in favorites? Why is displays in favorites? I mean, you only need to run that thing once and then you never need to touch it again. Why the hell is that in favorites? It's like all these little things, Mint, that I've been telling you for 6 versions now that could make this OS better for everybody. It's not about me. I mean, I can go through and configure. I'm a nerd, right? I can go through and I can configure this. I can write configure scripts. I could roll my own distro and like fix all this kind of stuff, you know? I've been debating it for a while. I just had a little bit too much work and stuff like that. But Clem, let's fix this, man. Let's make Mint the best. Let's make the best version of Mint ever. Because it hasn't been that good since LMDE2. It hasn't been. There's been like little things, little downgrades, little disimprovements. And I like Warpinator. Warpinator is great. The name is stupid. It's very unprofessional. The logo is kind of stupid too. A lot of things about Warpinator are stupid. Sorry. It's a great program. It works great. I've tried installing it on a few other distros and it doesn't always work with Mint out of the box. I don't know if it's a firewall issue or what. But there's something where I can't get Warpinator to always talk from one distro to another when I hack it and make it and install it on another distro. But out of the box on Mint, it is great. It's a great app. It works great. That was a win. A lot of these little Mint apps are wins. The fact that you're doing Pix is great for a photo editor. The fact that it's lightweight, comes with all the built-in GTK backend libraries and stuff. I mean, it's great. A lot of these things are great. But a lot of them are just like, that little bit wonky to where it's like, you know, somebody like my mom or my grandma, they're going to get on here and they're going to be like, why can't I edit a photo? Why can't I go edit a photo? Why'd they remove the photo editor? And I just have to look at them like, I don't know. Sorry, Grandma. I'll install it for you. Let me remote in with Chrome Remote Desktop. Oh, there's no Chrome. It's just all of these things need to be solved. It's just like, why? Why can't we just make it super easy and nice for the end user? You know? I mean, shouldn't that be the goal? What is the goal here? You know, if you want it to be super clean with all open source tools and everything else, then, you know, we have Trisquel for that. We got all these other distros that focus on that. You know, why? I don't think that's the point of Mint, right? Isn't Mint just here to fix all the stupidness of Ubuntu? And it's like, so what? We go through and we fix all the stupidness of Ubuntu and then add a bunch more stupidness? Like not having the GIMP installed? It's just, I mean, a favorites menu that looks like it's from 1982 and it's like light gray. It's like shocking when it opens up and it has all these useless apps that you're never going to use again. And all this like big bloated craftware like Rhythmbox. It's like all these little things. It's just, I'm posting this video because I want to help. I do. I want to help make Mint better. That's why I post this video. So I know it may seem harsh, it may seem mean, it may seem like I'm harping on and on, it may seem like every time I post a review, I'm pointing out all these flaws, but the flaws are there for me to point out. If they weren't there for me to point out, I wouldn't be pointing them out. Install the GIMP by default. Install Kdnlive by default. Install K3B. Get rid of Brasero. Nobody wants Brasero. Brasero just makes coasters. I've never gotten Brasero to work reliably for me, ever. And it's like, why? Just because it's GTK? I mean, are we in some holy war to only use GTK? I mean, is that why we're using transmission instead of QBitTorrent? I mean, what are these app choices? You don't like Qt? Why don't you like Qt? What's the problem with Qt? What's the problem with the KDE libraries? I don't get it. I don't get it. Have Wine installed by default. Have a few Windows apps installed under Wine by default. Make it easy for the user. Make it easy for the user. Have Steam installed by default. I mean, Getting rid of Compiz, though, that's just... Why? Because you couldn't fix the default config? It's like you're building a house and the landlord comes in and says, hey, I don't really like the paint job. And you just tear down all the walls. It's like, what? You could have just painted it a little better. Changed the color of the paint or something, right? You don't got to tear the whole thing down and start over again. It's just, it seems to be like a real stubbornness or some kind of holy religious devotion to some of these libraries or toolkits that they don't make a lot of sense to me at this point. And I understand it's a volunteer project, but I mean, I also know that it's like one of the most popular distributions in the world, frequently beating Ubuntu in a lot of ways, and I think with that prestigious placement in the Linux world, we've got a little bit of responsibility to really make it better for the end user, a lot better for the end user. And it's good. It's always been good. It's been good since like version, 12 or 13. I mean, I've been using Linux since Linux Mint since version 10 or 9 or something. We're at 20.1 is this beta that I'm testing. And to still have all these little issues, little annoying problems, it's, and this is the number one Linux distro. It is. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I think Linux Mint has been number one for a long time. I mean, to me, Ubuntu's never, when they went on the whole Unity path, I mean, why are all these Linux distros always shooting themselves in the foot? Debian took that poison pill with the systemd thing. Debian's never run as good since they added systemd. It hasn't. If you're running a server room and you're running processes on Debian, you know how solid Debian 6 and Debian 7 were. And the Debian 8 came out with systemd, and it was just like crash, weird issue, crash, weird issue. It's like... We're going backwards, people. We're going backwards. We're going backwards in the Linux community. We're going backwards in the world. Instead of more freedom, we got less freedom. Instead of being patted down less at the airport, they're patting you down more at the airport, making you wear a mask to go to the grocery store now, even though there's no scientific efficacy for wearing the mask. It's just like the music that is coming out now is terrible. There's no drummer in any band anymore. It's all synth drums, and it sounds like synth drums. It doesn't sound good. I can't even get drums on my album. Because where am I going to do it? How am I going to find a drummer, get 8 drum mics, get a studio, get an engineer, get all that? I mean, it's just like nobody's doing it anymore. They just go on some keyboard somewhere and think, oh, good enough. It's like technology is supposed to enable us to be better than we are. And instead, it's enabling us to be lazier and dumber and just, more pathetic and boring. We need to do better, people. And Mint, this is a beta release. You have the option to do better. You could fix all of these problems and then release. You don't have to release right away. You could release in next June if you wanted. You could really go through with a fine-tooth comb, fix all this. Take 6 months. Say, you know what? It's going to be ready when it's ready. We don't have a schedule. We'll see 20.1 in June. And by then, everything will be. Hypnotics will work great. Warpinator will work great and have a better name that doesn't sound so stupid. We'll install the GIMP by default. We'll have, Compiz working like really good with all kinds of great configuration. I mean, these aren't huge. Like, this isn't. Elon Musk is trying to build rockets and go to Mars and the moon. And we just can't have a nice desktop interface? Why? Why are we still using these outdated tools from, the 80s and then, and color schemes from the 80s? And then having, and why do we have 5 versions too? Do we really need XFCE, Cinnamon? Look at what. Well, Internet fam, I hope you all are doing great out there. I hope you have a great Christmas. It's now, let's see, what time is it right now? Yeah, it's about an hour and 15 minutes from Christmas Eve right now. So I'm going to go ahead and call it. By the time I'm done editing this, I'll be well into Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. Linux Mint is still the best operating system there is. So please don't take this criticism as me being like some kind of snarky jerk. It's just the simple fact is there's a lot of dumb problems that are all solvable. A lot of dumb problems are all solvable. And instead of solving them, they're making more problems. Getting rid of stuff that people use, adding stuff that, most people don't even care about, I think it's cool. If you want to add the stuff, cool. But make the stuff that we rely on work. And make it look good when it first turns on. That white menu is hideous. Just default to the little moon. That's it. Just move that slider over so when people turn it on, it's on the pretty version. Why are you defaulting to the ugly version? To make people like Cinnamon more? Is that why you want everybody to use Cinnamon? Is that why? Because Cinnamon's your little baby, little sweet little baby. Is that why? That why you gotta send out a mate configuration that just looks like Windows XP? We got our little Cinnamon baby. We're gonna make mate look like Hunchback of Notre Dame. Everybody loves the little Cinnamon baby. Couldn't get the Compiz config. Just couldn't make a little text file about this big, 5 lines of code, so that you got windows to move around. Couldn't do that. No, just remove it. Remove it. Oh, we got a little weird drawing paint clone, so get rid of the GIMP. We've replicated Windows Paint in the year 2020. We've replicated Windows Paint from the 80s into 2020 Linux. Therefore, we will remove the superior Photoshop option. We'll just completely remove it. Who's making these decisions? Because it's not, the problem isn't that these decisions are being made. The problem is the infrastructure of the Mint team is set up in such a way that these decisions are being made. Because it doesn't matter, even if we fix every issue. If we go through and fix every single issue of my beta review here, which is now going to be half an hour long or 45 minutes long or something. If we go through and fix all of these issues, what's to stop the Mint team from making 20.2 start having all these stupid decisions again, like getting rid of the GIMP, getting rid of Compiz, adding a bunch of stuff that people don't even use or want or need, How does the Mint governance work? Because I'm in the forums, I'm on the comments, I'm in the chat, I'm posting comments on every blog post. I'm trying to get involved and help you guys make some more professional, realistic, sensible, reasonable decisions. And instead, it's like things are crashing, and the versions are out of date. I get that Linux, especially when it's not a rolling distro, we're trying to keep with a more stable version. But that version of OBS was so old you couldn't even lock scenes and stuff. It's too old. And maybe that's not a Linux Mint issue. Maybe that's an Ubuntu issue, or maybe it's a Debian issue, or somewhere along the way something's wrong, and we're missing part of the glue to make it work well. So how do we fix that? How do we fix Linux? This isn't just about Linux Mint. This isn't just about Linux Mint 20.1 beta. This is about the whole ecosystem. How do we get rid of systemd and go back to actually having a server that actually boots reliably and stays open and doesn't take like 64 megabytes of RAM just to open a, resource monitor, Why is this happening? Who's making these decisions? And how do we fix it? How do we fix the blatant corruption and stupidity of the current system where everybody has to take systemd, this giant monolithic junk that makes everything worse? Why? Why do we got to do that? I mean, who died and made Leonard Pottering God? I mean, Pulse Audio had all kinds of problems. Pulse Audio still has problems. I do a lot of music recording and stuff, and if I can use ALSA or Jack or anything besides Pulse, I'm going to take it. Because I don't want to, hire some cellist that I'm paying $100 an hour and have to do like 7 extra takes because Pulse Audio had some kind of issue and crapped out on me. So it's not about Mint. It's not about Ubuntu. It's about the entire Linux ecosystem. It's clear to me that there's somewhere along the way bad actors, whether it's Microsoft or Apple or Red Hat corporate. So somebody in there is forcing the entire Linux industry to accept this garbage and eat it up. And LMDE2 was almost the perfect operating system. Almost. So close. So close. And everything since then has been a big downgrade for me, and then I was using that in 2014. So in 6 years, we've gone downgrade a lot on a lot of this stuff. And, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of open source. Open source could free humanity. But right now, open source has been corrupted and co-opted and manipulated by bad actors at giant corporations. Red Hat, number 1. Microsoft, number 2. Apple, probably the NSA and other kinds of government organizations too. I mean, it's not like all of this stuff is happening in a vacuum. It's like we can go back and look and think about why we got to where we are. But it's not really worth it. A lot of times when you're troubleshooting a computer, you can think, oh, why did that happen? Oh, why am I getting this error? It's way easier to just fix it. Uninstall the program, reinstall it. Boom, now your configuration's back to something sensible. Let's not go back and try and figure out why something happened, And I think we need to do the same thing in the whole industry. Let's not go back and point fingers at Leonard Pottering or Red Hat or whoever's making these ludicrous, stupid decisions and who they work for and how they're getting paid. Let's not do that. Let's just fix it. Let's go back to one tool for one job that works good. The Unix philosophy. That was the whole thing that made Linux great in the first place. And now we're getting rid of that with all this like monolithic giant garbage. I don't even like that Libreoffice is a suite. Libreoffice Writer should be its own program with its own thing. Libreoffice Calc should be its own program with its own thing. If they want to share libraries or something, great. I get it. Cool. Great. Does that mean like if I'm running some distro that happens to prefer some other library, like if it doesn't, if it's based on GTK and I prefer Qt, or if it's based on KDE and I prefer GTK, does that mean that I'm going to opt for the one that doesn't work, like Brasero? I'm going to go edit this video now. Merry Christmas, everybody. Linux still sucks in 2020. Still. And I wish it didn't suck. And it's still better than Windows or Mac, even with all these bad actors doing all this bad stuff to it. But one of these days, we're going to get a distro that works out of the box and works good. It's going to be based on Dev1. It's going to have compiz without all the wobbly windows and all the BS going. It's just going to have like a real clean, nice, fast, efficient compiz setup. It's going to have Wine working out of the box. It's going to have whatever your old favorite Windows apps are working out of the box. It's going to have, including games and whatnot. A lot of the great games from the past are open source now. So I mean, why couldn't we release a distro that has like a really, really cool version of Quake 2 with all, community made maps and stuff, You know, why not? Some kind of open source version of GTA that's like just way better, where you can like, you know, build all your own cars and houses right in the game, you know? Don't have to hook up to the server, don't have to pay Rockstar, none of it, you know? We could have so much better stuff than we have now. But instead everybody's just drinking the little Starbucks latte. Oh, it's only $20, I guess I'll buy it. Click, you know? And we get, you know, this garbage. It's the whole industry. It's not even just Linux. It's like everything. It's gaming, it's music, it's movies. You know, do I really want to see another movie with comic book heroes? Like this corporate comic book hero stuff? Do I really want to see another one of those movies? I can't have a movie with like an original plot and like actual writing, actual script and dialogue. I'm playing real music with real instruments. I'm doing my part. I wish as a IT professional I could be using better tools on that end too. All right, Merry Christmas everybody.